A decade ago, when I was involved with Occupy Wall Street, the message was simple. We are the 99% versus the 1%. The American left was more inclusive and more inviting of all peoples in the attempt to organize a mass movement against neoliberalism in the post-2008 paradigm. The message was simple, clear-cut, and was easy to understand, even for those who weren't politically engaged. Today, the battle lines are far more blurred, and the American left comes off as either coddled by progressive gatekeepers who wish to dictate the direction of the zeitgeist, creating a moral panic around white privilege, white supremacy, white hate crimes, and the concept of whiteness in general, without directly attacking the structure of neoliberalism, which leeches off of white people and non-white people alike. And heaven forbid you criticize AOC or the Squad. These apologists for progressive neoliberalism will label you as a racist or a fascist, even if you criticize AOC or the Squad for the correct reasons, for not being more apprehensive towards the concept of neoliberalism in general. Then there are the left comms and the bread tube anarchist types who have latched onto and appropriated the struggles of indigenous Americans. With these left comm and bread tube types, ironically, they are buying in to the same false European colonial settler belief that the indigenous were a stateless, nomadic, uncivilized peoples who had no structures and lived in complete harmony with nature, despite the historical reality that the indigenous did have urban settlements, laws, and trading centers in the form of the Algonquin people's, I hope I'm saying this right, Cahokia, that's in the Mississippi region, the Pueblos, Chaco Canyon, the Aztecs, Tenochtitlan, I hope I said that right too, and the Incans, Cusco, which irrefutably disproves the European Malthusian narrative that indigenous Americans are supposedly anti-trade, anti-growth, and anti-state, when that is a European colonial settler fabrication. It is dishonest and disingenuous for culture vulture bread tube types to wrap themselves in decolonization as a way to indirectly assert their anarchist philosophies when indigenous Americans were not exactly anarchists. At least not all of them. What we see today is being done in the name of a culture war being taken up by the so-called left, who are unconsciously doing the bidding of the 1% Eastern establishment liberal wing of capitalism with their crusade on Americana. Because if they actually attacked the structure of how neoliberalism operates, the money would dry up because it is neoliberalism that is funding this cultural crusade. When the left is being underwritten by capitalist academics and corporate nonprofit think tanks, is it really left-wing, or is it capitalism pretending that it's left-wing? In response to this current trend within American leftist zeitgeists, dictated by capitalist liberals, Trumpism and the alt-right were formed as a more toxic antibody to toxic leftism. If you go on to Minds.com, this is a website filled with these types. And yes, there are evil and perverted people with Aryan supremacist views on Minds.com. They do exist, and they serve as agents of disinformation to indoctrinate economically alienated Caucasians down a very dark and sinister path. They will go so far as to labeling Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, and George Soros as personalities focused on ushering in a communist New World Order. They will attack Antifa and BLM as being part of some army fueled by the ideology of cultural Marxism. They will label corporate entities such as Coca-Cola, Walmart, Disney, Starbucks as bastions of socialism. They will accuse the Democratic Party of working for China. So, how does the American left respond to all of this? Let's think here. Do these people say, no, this is all incorrect? Gates, Bezos, and Soros are not communists, but bourgeois monopolists who are the enemies of communism? Do they say that Coca-Cola, Disney, Starbucks are not socialist, but hallmarks of anti-union capitalism? Do they say you people are pissed off at neoliberalism and you are too dumb to see this? Do they say that? No. Nobody says this stuff because nobody wants to correct these people and show them they are expressing anti-capitalist sentiment in an extremely perverted and distorted way. Now, what they do is that they continue reacting like a bunch of aquarium-trained trick seals. At the beck and whim of liberal institutions, and continue attacking unenlightened reactionary fools pissed off at capitalism, but expressing that alienation in the form of racism and anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. Then they politicize every avenue and facet of society and alienate the non-ideological towards the people who are attacking capitalism, but blaming socialism for the problems that capitalism causes. People who engage in so-called cancel culture and critical race theory to form the entire basis of their worldview are not making white supremacists go away. And they are not making neoliberalism go away either. They are throwing water onto an electrical fire and then wondering why is the fire growing even though we used water to put the fire out. The financially well-off academic professors who are promulgating this, like Mary Matsuda, William S. Richardson School of Law, University of Hawaii, that's where she's a professor at, they are making our lives as Marxists harder because we can't convince people to turn against capitalism because they're blaming socialism for the problems that capitalism, which has adopted critical race theory, are causing. This is not an outright condemnation of critical race theory and cancel culture, right? Don't take it that way. We need better understanding between the historically less exploited and the historically more exploited. We do need to uplift voices that were traditionally placed on the back burner. However, we need to do this through building an inclusive and international fellowship rooted in struggle against multinational corporate exploitation and struggle against neoliberalism. Racial balkanization, sectarianism, this is not the way to go about it. This is what the liberals want, because the liberals do not want a unified, multiracial, multigender, Marxian coalition to challenge the institutions of big capital which bankrolls them. Cancel culture does exist. Stop denying that it doesn't exist. It does. But it's not being bankrolled by socialists, as the right-wingers claim, so inaccurately. It is being bankrolled by corporations and nonprofits and used as a means to deliberately divide, alienate, and turn people against each other. Do not get sucked into the culture war, because if you do, you will bring about a civil war. Instead, get yourself back into the class war, because truthfully, we don't need a civil war between peoples. That's the last thing that we need. Instead, we need a revolution unifying the people against the capitalist parasites. This is Comrade Pella signing off.